Hey everyone, my name is Chaand, again, both certified in internal medicine. And for those that follow me on TikTok, already know a little bit about my story. So I'm a board certified doctor in internal medicine. And I have to say that to look legit, right? But I've been moving towards holistic medicine, all different kinds of medicine. You can call it spiritual, I call it neuroscience, or a mixture of both. But I just want to talk a little bit about, just openly about more about my story, because I have made significant recovery, and it's literally my duty and responsibility to share what I've learned with other people. So a little bit about the story, I have later on realizing that, first of all, I got long COVID basically a couple of years ago, right? Knocked me out really bad. After that, I got severe ME. I was moderate ME or myalgic encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome, for those who don't know, for a while. And then I had parts before that which got really bad. Like I couldn't walk, I couldn't do a lot of things. I was nonstop suffering. And for people who know it, it was terrible, right? But then I realized I actually had a lot of this going on for many years before that. I had not been able to exercise. Full body exercises are out of the picture. I couldn't do any lower body exercise. Like it was always up and down. Emotional dysregulation was crazy. Uh, anyways, that kind of things started making sense. And the thing that I wanted to talk about here was what are the things which helped me, right? Uh, in the beginning, the most significant impact had come from basically limbic retraining kind of stuff, but it didn't go too far. But it was kind of a top bottom approach, really understanding what is limbic dysfunction. I learned or unlearned from Western medicine, which is what this whole journey has required. I learned basically like what's going on in some of these conditions at a mitochondrial level, for example, or at a cellular level. And that's where I started, and I learned about the cell danger hypothesis, how even after the trauma has passed, whether that's an infection or any other kind of trauma, the body just remains stuck, right? And the cells remain stuck. The cell membranes actually get stiff. And that was the idea of a perceived threat, right? And the body's just utilizing all this ATP. Remember, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Um, and it's shunting it to try to protect against this danger, which might or might not be there. And you're basically like tired and fatigued and all of these symptoms. So, anyways, I learned that, and I had a lot of food allergies, a lot of also like food intolerances. I wasn't able to eat a lot of things. And I had been in this world where I was so focused on the pathology and on what can make me sick. And I was trying all the supplements, every fucking thing. I was on Twitter all the time for years before this. Um, because my ex-partner had also suffered from something, much more serious, but similar illnesses. And I was really trying to make sure that, we could figure out how they're going to get better. And so this was, my subconscious was loaded with all of this stuff, and it hit me that, oh my God, maybe that's playing a part here. And it's something which I wouldn't have ever thought of as a doctor, right? And I would have called this like, oh, yeah, psychologize this illness, which is not a psychological illness. These are physiological, very real mind, body, soul illnesses, but like they call real damage and they can kill you, right? Uh, so anyway, so it was kind of a limbic retraining, which is understanding that there is limbic dysfunction, probably chronically and after acute stuff, which creates a lot of this persistent stuff. And so a little bit of that neuro-linguistic programming at the beginning gave me like some stuff. And then I did some visualization meditations, and I was able to walk a little bit. And I was like, what the hell just happened? Like it was kind of crazy, right? So anyways, that started me on this journey. And just to give you a heads up, like I owe all of this to a few people, specifically one person who had messaged me because I was on TikTok and Instagram and said, hey doc, like I know you're sick. This is what I did and I got better. Do you want to try this? And I just fucking blocked her. And I was like, dude, screw you. You say this shit is in my head. And like just that word, like mind body would trigger the shit out of me. Like it was really fucking annoying. My heart would start racing. I would get like really angry. I would get sick, like basically. So I blocked her, and then like kept getting sicker, 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 sicker. I think a couple months later, I hit her up and like, hey, tell me, I'm open, right? Uh, I was on my knees, literally. I thought I was going to die. I mean, I was dying. So, anyways, that started me on this journey. The point was that initial mind, body, basic kind of stuff did help, but it wasn't enough. The real breakthrough came through somatic archaeology, which is what I got trained in later on. It's a somatic experiencing kind of protocol created by Dr. Ruby Gibson. And basically the idea is like, rather than trying to these palpitations, this whole fucking adrenaline surge which was coming, rather than try and do breathing and meditation to calm it down, I just let it come on. And when I did that the first time, it was scary as hell. But then, holy shit, that surge went away. I had like a normal 2 days, and then I started getting sick. Like, when started slowly getting back to baseline, but I never got that sick. So it was like, I was like, the light bulbs kind of like just went off. I was like, what the fuck just happened? And that's when I realized, like, okay, I need to read this book. I need to like get this training. I need to do all of this stuff. But I was still pretty sick. And at this time, I had done a lot of mindfulness stuff. I was doing a lot of breathing, and none of that shit was working. Not saying that it doesn't work, just not enough, right? Because a lot of the meditation mindfulness is sometimes trying to be like, I need to get out of my body and not feel what's happening. While somatics or embodiment says that no, you can feel the sensations, and that might make them get better or might release something. So, anyways, at that point, I was following some people on, who had recovered from these illnesses, and that was kind of the biggest thing, which I tell people also. Listen, if you're sick, you want to follow people who have recovered. And I know a lot of people don't do that for whatever reason, and I get it. Like, I get it. But anyways, that was for me. It was like I started following these groups, and this whole push, crash cycle that I was in. That was the first stage. I had to get out of the push, crash, push cycle. And man, I spent a lot of time. I was in bed, dude, all fucking day, man. Like I was going broke. I had no job and no saving. I mean, I had some savings, but don't get me wrong, but I had no job. I had no benefits. I hadn't had a full-time job in like years because I was a little sick and because of my like personal life issues. So I was just fucking withering away, and I was like, fuck it, man. I don't care. I just want to get better, right? I don't care about who's right, who's wrong. I want to get better. And then I started following a lot of these people. So the push, crash, push cycle was something which was the biggest hurdle in the beginning. And honestly, like a lot of the mind body stuff really helped me there to the point where my window got significantly better. Like like I would push this much and crash, but then I was able to push till this much and crash. Now, even this much was like not what normal people can do, right? Like I'm here, like here now, right now. Like, but like I was like here. So that slowly expanded, and that was really helpful. And the idea was to repeatedly keep on reminding myself because the body is stuck and, you know, and whatever. I'll talk about all of this stuff. And was to really kind of like rewire the subconscious in that way, and that helped, right? I was on pharmaceuticals at that point for my heart, and I had realized one thing at that point, that there is something in the body which needs to be released. These symptoms are messengers. These were just basic stuff, right? Symptoms are messengers. They're trying to tell me something. One of the things that they had told me at that point, which eventually I had to hear, and that is something which really helped me get better, was that I need to get out of this relationship my heart wasn't there the way it was, and I was being there out of, yes, compassion, but sometimes out of sympathy, and it was heartbreaking. Like it's a very complicated story, but I just knew that I had to leave. It was just this urge that I had to speak my truth. Um, it was just that thing that I had to fucking do that, and I also knew there was something other stuff. I understood that there was ancestral stuff here. This was stuff from childhood, so I knew this stuff had to be released. And that somatic body up approach was something that I started doing a little bit more and more and more and more and more. And that is what, when these symptoms would come, and they were so loud at that time, they were so loud, it would be like a whole sensory experience. And in some of these major, surges, when they came, they gave me like, I have to go back home. I have to go back to India. I have to go and see my grandmother. Like, like these things that I was scared to do, and it was really fucking scary because I was paranoid about everything, uh, including about getting COVID again, like rightfully so, right? But it was to the point that it was making me sick. That was the other realization. But anyways, the point being that started with some top-bottom approaches, but understood that there's stuff which is stored in the body, it needs to be released. And that's a very simplistic understanding, right? It's much more nuanced than that. And then I eventually learned about polyvagal theory. And at that point, it really wasn't making sense. Um, I just didn't really understand I wasn't able to read a lot, to be honest, but I was still trying to read. Anyways, the point was that I didn't have a job, and I eventually got to a point where I could do like 2 days a week, kind of work from home, and just being on the computer would crash me. Like I would call a few patients and then I would like full body sick, and it was like brutal, right? Significantly got better after I left the relationship, which was this book called Reverse Psychology, which uh, I read, and that kind of ingrained this idea that I was like, holy shit. And the fact that I got better after ending the relationship was just an answer to be like, wow, how much of a stressor that was, right? This is not mean this is going to work for everyone, but anyways, the point was that's what happened. But I was still not normal. I was nowhere near to my baseline. I was definitely not what we would call normal, right? Like I was still having a lot of symptoms. I would still crash after doing certain things. It was still a lot of symptoms, but I had adjusted okay-ish. My like capacity wasn't nowhere near to what people normally live like. Like I know what that feels like now, which is so fucking weird. How I just thought that that's okay, right? Anyways, it was around this time that I started learning about Chinese medicine. I started learning about Ayurveda. I was reading, learning, and I did try some Chinese medicine. They did fucking help, like ridiculously helped me. Something called jade windscreen. Now, again, this is not medical advice. Don't just fucking start taking this shit, right? Um, and I mean, these are supplements. Like some of them are supplements, so sure you can do that, but like talk to someone who knows what they're doing. And again, it's nothing crazy, but it's people's uses all the time. But I was like, what the hell? I can like run a little bit. Like it was that. So I had till last year, I'd gotten to some level where, I mean, I was still suffering, and I wasn't able to work, but man, I was grateful, right? Like, and I just thought that maybe this is how life is going to be. This is also when I got into astrology. I'm just telling you everything that was this shit. And again, I'm a Gemini. I read and learn. This is my natural self. And I was like, you know what? This is my life, which is fine. And it has meaning. It has meaning. And astrology came into my life. And that was so helpful. Like did so much healing for me more than so many modalities, right? But each of these played a part is what I'm trying to say, right? Uh, Herbalism, so I was reading and learning. And anyways, ultimately, like I did a course in somatic archaeology, so I'm certified in that, and just a somatic experiencing protocol, probably one of the most important tools, which is why I say that we need both bottom down and bottom up approaches. Not just bottom up is not going to work. Simply neurolinguistic programming, simply tapping, or simply meditation mindfulness is not going to work. I mean, I don't think it has worked for a lot of people. A lot of people, like, it might not work for a lot of people. It has for a lot of people, but I feel for a lot of people, it might not be enough. That's my genuine belief, right? And then it was these bottom up approaches, specifically somatic work, right? Eventually music and dance just like started changing my body, and I was like, oh my god, like started doing things that I liked, but I was still not able to do a lot of it. I would go out dancing at the weekend and I would crash the next day. Like it would take me 2 days to recover. It was brutal and painful, right? Like I couldn't tolerate alcohol. I couldn't tolerate sleeping after 11 p.m. Like that was just like, it wasn't like that I would be groggy the next day. Like last night, I was up at 4:30, so I'm a little, but I'm not like suffering, I'm just like a little somebody who woke up at 4:30 rather than like 6:30, right? But like my heart, like it's not like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not that bad. It's just what it should be like. And it shouldn't be, you should feel a little sleep deprived, but it shouldn't wreck your entire body the way it used to, right? That all changed just recently. And that has happened from TRE, trauma release, tension trauma release exercises by Dr. Bercelli. Randomly came across it. And I don't know what moved me. I was like, I said, I'm going to try this shit. And the first time I did it, these tremors, and it's again, and I read about it, I read the books, I've done a lot of research. I'm going to try and get trained in it, although like I pretty much understand a lot of things, clearly a lot of things. But anyways, the point was that I'm lying down, these tremors start, they do go into my psoas, they do my spine, my whole body does shake. Doesn't happen with everyone, mine does. And I immediately feel a reset. And I was like, well, I cried. I was like, what? Like I slept like a baby after that. Slept till 9:30 the next day, which is something which I haven't been able to do every night. I wake up in like palpitations. That was my normal. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? So I did another session, again on my own, right? And then I did another one, again on my own. And within a couple of weeks, I am feeling more myself than I have in the last, I would say at least 6 years, 5 to 6 years. And I can feel myself getting stronger and better like I used to be like 10 years ago. Like it's, but different. So I'm not really talking about going back, which is what I don't like to talk about healing and recovery is going back. I think it's going to a different place, but there are parts of me that are feeling like I used to physically. Emotionally, I'm in a completely much better place. Like the way my heart used to just start acting up when I would hear shit, it's just gone. Or it's so much better, let me put it like that. Like, anyways, that has had the most profound impact right now. And again, I know that it's not just one thing, which is why when people are trying to say this is the way that you're going to get better, this one thing, I don't believe that. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that, and I don't think that's how what we should preach. My experience, and I feel confident enough to share this openly now, and I am going to be sharing more about this, the details and specifics, and teach people, train people, and help people, which I am doing a little bit on the side, and they are getting better significantly. Because this is science, whether you believe in indigenous spiritualities or not, science. Uh, it's physiology. There is tension and trauma trapped in the body, trapped in the fascia. If we want to consider that's the that's what I'm into right now, and it has been ridiculously helpful, right? And again, I feel like I needed it at this point. Maybe early on I wouldn't have, but anyways, this trauma release, somatic body approaches combined with polyvagal, which is establishing safety in the body, really resetting, both are needed. I use internal family systems. Even right now, I think of these different symptoms in the terms of parts. Like, and I got into that and I thought that would be the one thing. But no, it's a mixture of all these things, and it might require some of these different things for a lot of people. I'm not special, right? And I know other people who are been through exactly the same thing. I know so many people, but as an internal medicine physician, it is literally my responsibility and duty because this applies to chronic pain. This can apply to multiple autoimmune conditions, specifically fibromyalgia, POTS, ME, chronic fatigue syndrome. Might not be the only thing. Please see your doctor, see the neurologists, see cardiologists, see whoever specialist rheumatologist. Take the medications if required. This was my approach. I was on pharmaceuticals and I decided to stop because I knew that they were suppressing symptoms and I needed to release them. That was my game. Not doctor advised. I fucking did it anymore. I was the patient who didn't listen to my doctor. I followed my gut and it helped me. I'm not going to tell you to do that though, right? I suggest ideally you would be under the guidance of specialists who, even if they don't really fucking get this shit, because I'll be honest, you won't get this till you go through it. I can give you lectures if you haven't been through this, specifically the illness, and then recovered. You just don't know what I'm talking about. Just fine. You can understand it, maybe, but you won't be able to completely experience. The experiential understanding wouldn't be there, right? So ideally, there's a system where there are doctors who are like, sure, we're going to make sure your organs are fine. We're going to make sure your symptoms aren't too fucking crazy, right? Because that's what medicine can offer. And then you can have these other, modalities on there. Like, that's how it should be. And ideally, that's what I would do, right? I mean, I could fucking do that. If we weren't living in America, this healthcare system, I would be doing that. That's what I would want to do. And be like, hey, yeah, give me your labs, show me all of this stuff. Great. But we're going to focus on these big things. We're going to focus on really getting to the root, fixing this from the root. And that might include Chinese medicine, that might include some Ayurvedic principles, yada, 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 right? So multiple different modalities. But I do think that just from a functional aspect, pure functional aspect, we do need bottom up and top bottom approaches, a mixture of those, combination of those, a balance of those. Probably the bottom up is going to be more important for most people. That's my bet. It doesn't mean that you don't need the top bottom approaches. I think focusing on one or the other and trying to compete between them as providers doesn't really help patients or people who are suffering. So, anyways, that is my little spiel. We're at 20 minutes. There are ways out of this. I know it because I've experienced it. I also know that I'm not the only one who's experienced it like this. Um, and every single day that I'm seeing people, I see a lot of people with chronic pain, on medications which are not helping them, or maybe helping them but causing other side effects. And, it is what it is for a lot of people, right? It's the best that medicine can offer right now. But for these complex chronic illnesses, there is immense suffering, chronic pain being one of them. There's immense suffering, right? There are ways out of this. And if done under guidance, gently, because these releases need to be titrated, there is a method to this so-called madness. And we need to fine-tune this method. And the way I want to do it is by working with people now. And I'm at that point now. I feel like the next month or two, I will be like very, very ready. But I'm slowly starting is to like learn and do this. And people are doing this. I'm not the only one. But I do occupy a very unique vantage point or a very unique position. And I want to leverage that, not for my own personal gain. I'll be very fucking honest. I could care less about making a lot of money. I think, like most people, I want to do what I love. And I want to have a roof over my head. I want to have stability, right? I want to be able to dance and sing. I want to fucking enjoy life, man, right? That does not require me having a Lamborghini. And I don't think it requires most people having a shit ton of money. I think it requires being embodied in your honesty and authenticity and kind of like moving in that direction. And part of that includes me speaking my truth and offering guidance, offering help, offering support within my limits and capacity, right? Anyways, the unique vantage point being, or unique position being, Western medicine and holistic medicine, ancient medicine. Traditional guidance, like very typical, which is very important, dude. We fucking need medication. We need your lab tests. I need your cancer screenings. We need all of that shit, right? Uh, Lab tests and everything, right? Having that knowledge and having experiential knowledge and training in these other modalities, right? Also, by the way, you won't find a bigger advocate for universal healthcare and, like in my other side, and I'll talk about that in other videos. I've been an activist and organizer. It's a unique position. Like there's not a lot of people in this position, which does everyone special. But I feel like it puts me at a position where, and I have experiences where people can trust me, and I take that as a big responsibility. Which is why I don't speak a lot right now about all of this stuff, because I am generally also the kind of guy who's going to do my research. It's going to be pretty sure, having checked everything, that I'm ready to share this, I'm ready to offer this, I'm ready to speak this out, rather than feel something excited about and just share that, which I've done also, which is fine. But generally, I want to be sharing a grounded approach because I don't believe it's this or that. It's not Western or this. I think it's both. Right. And I have that nuanced understanding, that balanced approach of best of both the worlds, based on evidence and based on respect for ancient indigenous traditions, which have lasted for like thousands of years. Right. and empirical evidence which Western medicine has, which is useful in many circumstances. Not useful in many circumstances, but very useful in a lot of circumstances when it comes to public health and everything, right? So this balanced approach, and this is my Libra rising, the balance, is what I offer. And anyways, I'm going to shut up here. But yeah, I'm going to be talking more about this, so follow along.